Hi everybody, we're back on in my wood yard. I did a previous video on how I process my firewood. I'm a landscape company, but we end up with a lot of firewood, so we process it. And I mentioned in that previous video, I do most of my splitting with this super split. And in the video I showed this. It's a county line 40-ton wood splitter. This is basically going to change up the way we do things a little bit. It's hard to take these big pieces, it's just hard on your back. I don't like, you can hand split them, but it takes too much time to get them small enough so you can handle them to put on the table of the super split. So my thought was then, and I'm just finally getting to the point where I can set it up, is I'm going to take this, bring these big pieces over to it, and split them small enough so that I can handle them better. That way I'm just rolling them to there, splitting them. I'm going to set them here, and then they go on to the super split. Another thing I found a day or so ago, I split some, and you can end up with a pretty good chunk of that, like this. And that can be, I separate my wood. I do barkless oak. It sells for $50 to $75 more a cord, depending on where you are. But when I'm splitting, even stuff that's like 16 inches round, I try to split the outside off. So I have two tractors sitting here. One bucket gets the mixed hardwood. The other one, if it's straight oak, I try to put the barkless oak in that bucket. That way it's not really taking any extra time. But this is going to make that easier too. But you'll be seeing in the video the changes that this is going to make. It's going to make my back a lot happier too, I think. I'm going to do a quick intro on the 40-ton county line splitter that I chose. I like this. I did my research. Anything I buy, I research pretty heavy. For the money, I don't think you can beat these. It's 40-ton rating. It's also a 9.5-second cycle time, which is pretty fast for something that's 40-ton. They do get faster. Like the faster ones don't tend to be high rated. They're like 12, 15. I've had this style before. This can go horizontal or vertical. It's pretty much going to stay this way for what I'm going to do with it. But I just like the way it was rugged and simple. A lot of them put just the way they do the hydraulics and the motor, just it doesn't make sense. Stuff's going to get broke easy. But you can see here, it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to show how this thing starts because I'm on homeowner lots all the time where they'll ask me, hey, can you show me how to start this? They buy something like this and don't even know how to start it, but these are pretty straightforward. This shuts it off. The throttle is up. Put the choke on. There is a fuel I already got on, but that started pretty good today too, because I believe it's like 32 degrees. So I'm pretty impressed with the way it starts. Kohler motors. Most of my stuff's got Honda stuff on it. I do have, this is a Kohler, 14 horsepower. I've got pretty much the same motor that's on my sawmill too, but they seem to be pretty impressive motors. We'll see how long they last, but I think that there seems to be a lot of equipment coming with them now. Some of the features on this I also like. That this came with the log catcher. When you're running this sitting flat, it's nice to have this, so when you're splitting something this size, one half of this is going to fall away from you. You're going to only probably have the power to hold one side. So when you can hold the one that falls towards you, the other one's going to fall onto this table, so you're not picking it up off the ground again. This is an option on a lot of machines. This one comes with it. I don't know if all their county line ones do or not, but this was an option on the other two choices I was thinking about buying. Other than this was like a $250 option. So, but I think this features on this, I think for the money, I think this was the best bang for the buck for me. This will stay in this position for me because this is just the way I'm gonna split the big stuff. I've also got a friend that has a logging company. Another reason I chose to do this last year is starting in the spring, I'm gonna be going, when he's local, he stays local like me most of the time, but he's going to give me the what I call the butt end or the stump end of the first log. When he brings them out of the woods, it's like anybody. His machine cuts them as low as they can. They drag them out of the woods. When they're processing it to chip or put on a truck to sell, they normally cut that first 18-inch piece off because it's like a bell. So when you're loading them on a truck, they don't sit flat. Plus the quality of the lumber there isn't real good normally, so that it tends to be firewood. But he has a problem. Sometimes they're so big, even with his commercial chipper for filling big trucks, he has to break those pieces apart like in half to get them to go through his chipper. He said he'd rather give me a good deal on them, so I'm going to end up, and I would, now I've got this set up, I would rather have big wood like this rather than handle 50 pieces to get a bucket full of wood. You know, you're going to get 15, 16 pieces out of this one chunk. So I'm going to try it. I think it's going to be my new way of doing things. I end up with a lot of our firewood through my landscape business, so we get paid to take it down. I process it, sell it, so it works out good. I want to get a little more involved with the firewood the next couple years, so we're going to start getting these chunks from him. Well, I don't know how much, but it's enough so it justifies this. But I'm going to start this and split this. The only thing I will be changing is I don't like the idea. You watch all the videos on YouTube and everybody's trying to, you get a 3-foot piece of chunk of wood, you're trying to balance it on that so that this gets a good split. I'm going to make a bigger table, like a 24-inch piece of diamond plate, and shim it so that it sits there, so that that will stay level. It will just make it easier on me. After all day of fighting with those, you're going to be tired, where if you had a bigger platform, you could just plop it in there. So you'll see when I split this piece, when I put it on the first time, I'm kind of holding it up to stay flat, just to get a better split on it. That's the reason I want to build a bigger plate. I mean, this is made so the other way, this will bite into the small piece you're putting on there, or even a big piece. When you're using it this way, I just think, I understand they can't have that big platform because it gets used. What I'm going to do with it, I'm making that plate because this is pretty much the way it's going to be set up all the time. But this makes way more manageable pieces for me to put on the other splitter. So the whole idea of that being set up the way it is it's a lot more manageable for me to put this on this table than trying to use do that by hand. This is just a piece of diamond plate. I'm going to say it's 3/16 probably. I think it will work good for what we're going to do. Pretty much I want that part of the splitter to take most of the weight. This is just scrap steel I had. Like I said, I kind of want to do a shape. Try to let that take most of the weight. I go back in action. I ended up going to a welding place today and getting a whole new torch tip. They call it for a MIG welder, but they still call it a torch head. But I've had an issue with the other one. I think it got pinched in the lift, I don't know, a year ago. And I thought it was the trigger part of it, but come to find out it must have a kink in it, and the wire was having a hard time going through it. So it was making the motor that pushes it struggle. So it was just acting up today where I couldn't even weld with it, so I looked into it. I ended up buying the whole thing. We'll be finishing up the welding. I made the base I was talking about making. This is just scrap steel I had around the shop. Piece of diamond plate. That will make it a lot nicer when you're putting the bigger pieces on. Pretty much going to sit there flat now without holding it. And let's see how it goes. The 2 hours it took me to make that up and paint it, it's going to make my life so much easier. I've got some big stuff coming. My buddy's on a lot right now. I'm going to be getting some stuff that's probably 36 inches round, so they'll sit there flat. Like I said, I'm just looking to bust these big pieces up so they're a little easier for me to handle, put on a super split. And I'll show that operating in a minute too. I think it's something kind of cool how they work. I wanted to do a quick demonstration of the super split. If you haven't seen my previous video about my wood yard, how I process my wood, I do have a video that shows quite a bit more on this, but I wanted to do a quick video today to show you how we're processing it with this new 40 ton. Another thing I want to show you is this is all oak. I split this wood real small, and that's why a lot of my customers like it. It's easy to handle. A lot of firewood guys don't like the oak because it takes so long to dry, but this will dry. I sell this when it's basically 12 to 13 months old. And if you split it that small, it dries better. You can have log length oak that sits in your backyard for 2 years. When you go to split it, in the center is just as wet as it was when it's kind of a weird thing. But the reason you don't see a lot of oak, everybody does the mixed hardwood, is because if you do all oak, it's just a longer time you got to have it stacked somewhere in your yard. But I think that's the best wood. If you go online and look up videos, you put 10 pieces of this in your stove at night and it's going to go all night long. I grew up in a house, a big 18-room house. I'm the youngest of 11 kids. So we had a big house we had to heat with oil and wood. But I know my dad used to get the big pieces of oak, same thing. It's better overnight wood. And that's a good sales thing too when I sell it to people. You buy a cord of my barkless oak and it's basically like buying a cord and 3/4 of regular mixed hardwood. I'm not saying it won't split those big pieces, it will, but you still end up with a piece that wants to fall away from you. This is a nice table compared to what most have, but I'm just getting older enough now, so I don't really want to do that to my back. So the process here is going to be splitting the big pieces over there, setting them here, splitting them on here, processing them into a bucket of a tractor or a trailer or whatever's sitting here. Another thing I want to bring up is most of my wood comes from my landscape business. We're getting paid to take it down or clean it up in the spring, summer. We split it in the fall, and I have to get rid of it one way or another. If I am gonna, I really enjoy doing this. It's like some people might think it's weird, but I come up, have my first cup of coffee in the morning. I do this for a half hour, 40 minutes before I start my day with my landscape company. I just enjoy doing it. But if I do decide I'm going to buy wood, I don't think it's worth buying log length wood, cutting it, splitting it to sell. To me, there ain't enough money in it to do it that way. These stump ends that you're seeing are cheap enough. You can get a load of these cheap enough to where there's money on the other end of it. So, and I want to try to get I got a couple tree guys up here that are going to give me these big chunks. Like they cut trees that are 100 years old that are 3 or 4 feet round. No one ever wants that first 18 feet of that tree because it's just a big, massive piece of wood. I think that's what I want to do, is try to get that undesirable wood that's cheap and process it this way. I actually like doing the bigger pieces. You just get so much more out of it. I'm going to process a couple pieces of wood on this just to show people that haven't seen my previous video how these super splits work. I want to show when you're splitting it with the super split by hand how small you can split it. It's quick. Originally, the reason I started doing this originally is I have some elderly customers that asked me if I could split the wood smaller because they were in their late 70s, early 80s, and they just have a hard time dealing with the bigger pieces. So I started doing it for that reason. But then it also helps me because oak dries. This will be dried in 12 months, stacked on my fence line. Where if it was a big piece, you may not get it to dry, like if you check it with a meter. I find the best way with a lot of the hardwood to get it to dry within a year. Up here, people sell wood they call seasoned. My thing on that is it's a dangerous word. When you're buying wood to burn, seasoned can mean, some guys think seasoned means it's been split in for 3 months and you can burn it. That ain't the case. Normally, my wood all sits. I don't sell this until it's been stacked and drying for 12 months. I sell only dry wood. A lot of my customers this year, new customers I got, was because they bought wood from someone else that supposedly the wood seasoned. They thought they could burn it, and it was just too green to burn. So they ended up buying wood from me, and they're going to try to mix it at night or whatever. But one of the advantages I see of doing it the way I do it, the processes, they let a lot of big wood slip by. Like a lot of the complaints I get from customers, the guy they had has this big wood process. The problem is you get a quart of wood from them. There's 25 pieces in there that are almost unmanageable to lift if you're older. Your kids don't tend to want to help you neither. If small pieces like this, they can pick up, help you stack it in the basement, on the porch or whatever you got to do. But that's a good selling point too when you split the wood small like this. So where are we going with this? So if you like my videos, if you enjoyed watching my video, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or tips that you can give me, put it in the comment section. I'd appreciate it. But this will, if you like and subscribe, it helps me grow the channel. Thanks.